I said I wanted to get into some salary cap stuff today, and it kind of came from the idea of, all right, well, if Michkov's coming over, how do we maximize Michkov? And to me, like, if he is coming over, I'm not saying this needs to accelerate the rebuild necessarily. Like, all right, now we got to be all in.
And I don't think it will.
Like,
I think the people who think that if Michkov comes over, that means they're immediately going to start trading first-round picks and start adding vets. Like, that's not going to happen.
No. I'm not advocating for, like, okay, we got to move all these young assets so we can get players around Michkov and let's try to win it when he's 21 years old. Like, that's not what I think is going to happen. But I do think for Michkov's development, you need to add a high-end player for him to play alongside, so that, like, it's a conversation I used to have with Marcus Hayes on WIP about the Sixers process.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and it was very interesting.
Yeah, because he hated the process.
He did.
Right? Yeah.
But one of the things he hated most about is, like, okay, you have these young players you're trying to develop. Now, some of them might be Joel Embiid, future stars. Some of them might be busts, like Jahlil Okafor. But how do you find out about a guy like that, someone who needs to be fed the ball, if the guy feeding them the ball, let's say the point guard, is someone they picked out of the stands that night? Like, if the number one center is me or you, Charlie, I don't know how that helps Matvei Michkov. And, like, this is not to disparage Sean Couture. Coots might come back and be awesome. Frost might take another step. Who knows? Any of this is possible. But I just think to get the most out of Michkov and kind of shepherd his development along, whether it's a wing, a center, whatever it is, he needs a dude that's as good as him.
I don't know if I totally agree. I do agree that it would be ideal, and look, if they can work out some sort of deal this summer and maybe be more aggressive than they would otherwise to trade for, like, a Trevor Zegras and be like, all right, Trevor, you are now Matvei Michkov center. Have fun, buddy. Which, I mean,
Can you imagine the number of Michigan? Like, we would have to dress Delorier every night and probably play him on their line. Like, that's what it would be. It would be one of those, like, old school, we have 2 stars and a fighter. Yeah. Good luck.
But so I agree that would be ideal. Ovechkin had Backstrom. Like, Crosby and Malkin were together. Obviously, they weren't always on the same line, but they did stack them at times. And they also had Letang getting the puck. So they had guys who were high end, to support Crosby, to support Ovechkin. I'm not saying that Matvei Michkov is going to be as good as those two guys, but we're just talking conceptually. Yeah. That said, I don't think the Flyers are bereft of talent. Like, is it ideal if Michkov's first year is spent largely being centered by one of Morgan Frost or Sean Couturier? No, it's not ideal, but I don't think they're scrubs. No, I think they can get by. I don't think, like, the process was an extreme way to team build. There were actual scrubs on the court every single night. In the league. Yes. Yeah. Whereas the Flyers are a team. They play a sport called hockey. Throwback for the old BSH listeners.
Oh, I wish we could still play that shit. And I hated it so much, but I wish we could still play.
But the Flyers are a team that does have quality players that they can put with Michkov right away. I don't think you have to rush into a trade for another high-end guy just because you get Michkov. I do think it needs to be the goal. Because I agree with you over the long term. Yeah, like, I don't want this to be a Kirill Kaprizov situation where his center is Joel Eriksson-Ek. Perfectly solid player. He ain't a 1C at the NHL level.
Ryan Hartman.
Yeah, like, he's not even really a center.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell? The Flyers didn't even want him. Like, what the hell? It's insane. So I don't want that. But I don't think that you have to rush a big trade just because Michkov is here, even if that should be the long-term goal. By long-term, I don't mean 5 years down the road. I mean, like, 1 to 3 years down the road, get that center to play with.
They
Michkov.
need to be in on dudes and eventually land one.
Exactly.
Like, that's.
But to me,
it doesn't have to happen today.
I don't think it's we got to do it this summer because if Michkov plays with Morgan Frost, he's not going to develop well. I think Morgan Frost is good enough for him to not have his development hampered. Like Connor Bedard, look at this year. Connor Bedard's 2 primary line mates, Nick Foligno and Philip Kurashev. Yeah. Like, Foligno, perfectly nice player. Couturier is better than him, still. Kurashev is a guy. He's fine.
But Foligno will fight, so.
Well, there's that.
Yeah.
Couturier fought once this year, didn't he?
I think he did
He
drop
dropped the gloves once.
Yeah.
So he can
I do
fight
remember that.
a scotch.
Listen, he is Canadian.
But my point is that I think if Michkov, and this is something that the Sixers ran into, honestly, yes, there were guys like Okafor and I guess like Fultz, but he entered in a different situation that were straight up busts. But when you got an Embiid, it didn't freaking matter who was around him. You could tell immediately he was a star. And the hope is that Michkov is going to be one of those guys where, yeah, you know, you can watch Connor Bedard play and say, man, he'd be so much better if he had some actual friggin' high-quality wingers. But you can watch him and say, he's already real friggin' good, and it's not like he's a bust. I don't think there is a risk of Michkov busting because you don't have good enough players around him. If he needs really good players around him to be really good, then he's not the player he wanted to be anyway.
Oh, yeah. Like, I just want to maximize.
I do too.
Like, and him like the way, you're getting the most out of Ryan Hartman, playing him with Kirill Kaprizov.
Absolutely.
That's great.
You're not getting the most out of Kirill Kaprizov.
Caps, it kind of caps what he can do. Like, if you put them together, it's going back to the Claude Giroux conversation that we've had so many times over the years. Yeah, he was awesome and made everyone around him better. Those players weren't good enough, though.
It would have been really cool to see prime Claude Giroux with a winger that could score goals that wasn't Michael Raffle.
Yeah, like Scott Hartnell
would have been cool.
Scored 37. What if you had a guy whose base was 37?
Yeah,
not career high.
Yeah,
but there's plenty of time to get into that.
Sure.
The point of bringing all this up was, all right, I think the Flyers need to add somebody if they're getting Michkov this summer.
I think they need to. I don't think they need to add somebody, but I think they need to be looking to add somebody.
Sure.
If not multiple bodies.
We all silly like the mayor.